Kevin Stefanski's coaching strategy is being questioned, and not just for XS and OS. As the Browns struggle to align under his leadership, younger voices like Shedeur Sanders are filling the vacuum. While Stefanski's approach appears outdated and ineffective, Sanders is doing the work Stefanski hasn't. Building trust. On the field, he's throwing dimes like the 60-yard touchdown to Jeudy. Off the field, he's creating cohesion. And yet, Jeudy's reaction to that very touchdown highlighted the bigger issue. Not a lack of skill, but a lack of...
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This gap in direction has left the Browns at a crossroads. Sanders is emerging as a cultural cornerstone, calm, accountable, and consistent. Jeudy, meanwhile, is embodying the friction holding the team back. Whether Stefanski adapts or not, the contrast between these two players signals a shift in where leadership is actually coming from and who's earning the team's trust. It was the kind of play that should have electrified the team, a 60-yard touchdown strike that turned heads, raised eyebrows, and briefly lit up the Cleveland Browns offense. Shedeur Sanders placed the ball perfectly. Jeudy caught it in stride. 6 points on the... But what should have been a turning point ended up highlighting something a lot more uncomfortable, a glaring disconnect between the guy throwing the ball and the one catching it. Because as soon as Jeudy crossed the goal line, the mood shifted, not in a celebratory way. Not in a we're finally clicking kind of way. It was colder. Jeudy walked off the field like he hadn't just scored his longest touchdown of the season. No spike, no grin, no dapper Sanders. Just a look that said, whatever. It wasn't a one-time thing. That vibe has been brewing for a while. This game didn't just showcase Sanders' arm strength or Jeudy's speed. It put their contrasting mentalities on full display. Sanders came in with poise, confidence, and a workmanlike approach. He's been doing that all season. And now, people are starting to realize this isn't just about potential anymore. This is Jeudy? Not so much. For every flash of skill, there's a sideline outburst. For every big play, there's a body language breakdown. The touchdown didn't silence the critics. It gave them more fuel. Because when the guy making the play looks like he doesn't even care, the question becomes, what's really going on? This wasn't a chemistry issue. The play worked. The ball was there. The route was right. The execution was perfect. The issue came after, in the way Jeudy refused to acknowledge the guy who threw him the pass, in the way he sat on the bench during key drives, in the way his frustration kept bubbling to the surface, visibly, repeatedly, and publicly. And all of this while Shedeur Sanders continues to grow into a role that's getting harder and harder to ignore. Let's be honest. Sanders came into this team with expectations that were both sky-high and highly scrutinized. The last name, the college hype, the shadow of Coach Prime. It all came with pressure. But instead of folding under it, Sanders has embraced it. He's not chasing attention. He's building something. Slowly, methodically, with every rep, every huddle, every conversation. What's been most striking isn't just his accuracy or his pocket presence. It's his calm. The guy never looks rattled. Whether he's launching 60-yard bombs or taking hits behind a shaky offensive line, his demeanor never changes. That kind of composure doesn't come from luck. It comes from discipline, from being coached hard, from being raised to understand that leadership starts before the snap and lasts long after whistle. Shedeur doesn't just lead with talent. He leads with humility. That's what's winning over his... But Jeudy? He's stuck. Caught somewhere between flashes of brilliance and flashes of ego. He's clearly frustrated, but it's not clear with what. The offense? His targets? The rise of a younger quarterback who doesn't defer to him? Whatever it is, it's bleeding into everything. Into his effort. Into his communication. Into his reliability. And that's the problem. You could be the fastest guy on the field, but if your teammates can't trust you, it doesn't matter. Sanders is working every day to build that trust, with his offensive line, with his backs, with receivers, yes, even Jeudy. That throw didn't just happen because Jeudy was open. It happened because Sanders still wants to make that connection work, despite the friction, despite the lack of chemistry, despite the body language. He gave Jeudy the moment, and Jeudy responded like it didn't matter. This isn't just a personality clash. It's a crossroads. The Browns are slowly becoming Shedeur's team, and for good reason. He's doing the work. He's lifting the guys around him. He's performing, and he's not making excuses. Even in the face of poor coaching decisions, inconsistent support, and outdated offensive schemes, Sanders just keeps showing up. That speaks volumes, especially when your supposed veteran leaders are doing the opposite. Let's talk about Stefanski's coaching for a second, because it's not helping. The scheme has been criticized for being rigid, stale, and flat-out uninspiring. For a quarterback like Sanders, who thrives in rhythm and needs flexibility to build trust with receivers, it's a barrier. But instead of letting that weigh him down, Sanders is adapting, learning, adjusting, and still finding ways to shine. Jeudy, on the other hand, isn't adapting. He's not adjusting. He's showing signs of someone who expected a different role in this offense and hasn't been able or willing to pivot. The result? A player who flashes, then fades, who contributes but doesn't connect, who scores but doesn't celebrate. That touchdown? It didn't bring the team together. It exposed a fracture. And let's be real, this team can't afford that kind of division. Not with Sanders trying to turn the page. Not with young players looking for someone to follow. And not with a fan base that's watching all of this unfold, play by play on national TV. The truth is, Jeudy's not just hurting his own stock. He's becoming a liability to the culture this team is trying to build. His actions say, "This isn't good enough for me." Sanders' actions say, "Let's work to make it better." That contrast is loud. And it begs the question, how much longer can the Browns keep feeding a dynamic that clearly isn't working? At some point, trust matters more than talent. And right now, Sanders is earning trust while Jeudy is squandering. There's still a path forward, but only if Jeudy buys in, not halfway, fully. That means running crisp routes every play. It means showing up emotionally. It means recognizing that Sanders is the quarterback now, and that leadership is earned, not demanded. Because make no mistake, Sanders has earned it. He's shown more poise and leadership in half a season than some veterans do in 5 years. And he's doing it while carrying the weight of a dysfunctional offensive structure and the constant noise of legacy and expectation. That's not just impressive, it's defining. And if the Browns are serious about long-term success, they need to start building around that. Around Sanders. Around trust. Around guys who want to play together. That's how culture gets built. That's how you win games that actually matter. If Jeudy wants to be part of that future, the choice is his. But the window's closing. Fast. Because every week that Sanders shows up with calm, mature, team-first energy, and Jeudy shows up with something less than that, the gap widens. The trust erodes. And eventually, the targets will stop, the reps will drop, and the next deep ball, it won't be going number. Let us know what you think. Has Sanders already proven he's a Browns leader of the future? Can Jerry Jeudy turn it around before he's left behind completely? Drop your take in the comments. Hit that like button if you're riding with Shedeur's rise. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because this story, it's not over. It's just getting started. At this point, the spotlight isn't just on the scoreboard. It's on the sideline, on body language, on tone, on the visible, growing divide between two players who should be elevating each other, but are now moving in opposite directions. That 60-yard touchdown pass was supposed to mean something. Not just 6 points, but a sign of trust, a spark, a potential reset. Shedeur Sanders dropped back, read the defense, launched a perfectly timed throw downfield, and Jerry Jeudy caught in stride. It was beautiful, clean, executed with precision. And for about 5 seconds, it looked like maybe, just maybe, this would be the moment where things clicked. But then came the walk-off. No celebration, no interaction, no emotion. Jeudy didn't even look toward Sanders. Just trotted back to the bench like he'd been inconvenienced by success. And that's the problem. This wasn't about a blown play or a misread route. The play worked. The ball was there. The connection was made. But the reaction afterward said everything that the box score can't. Jerry Jeudy isn't bought in. Not to the system. Not to the culture. And based on what we've seen, not to his quarterback. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders has done everything a young quarterback should do, and more. He's handled pressure. He's executed under fire. He's stayed humble. And most importantly, he's kept the locker room from spiraling despite being thrown into a situation that frankly hasn't always supported his development. He's dealt with outdated coaching, an offensive line that leaves him vulnerable, and yes, a top wide receiver who seems to care more about optics than outcomes. And yet, he keeps showing up, keeps making the right reads, keeps trying to build something that lasts. There's a word for that, leadership. And leadership is exactly what this team has been starving for. Let's not forget, this was supposed to be a new chapter for the Browns. Bringing in a young, disciplined quarterback like Sanders was a move that signaled a cultural shift. No more chaos. No more drama. Just football. Just work. And for the most part, that's what Sanders has delivered. But when your supposed veteran wide receiver is openly dismissive of that vision, what do? The Browns are at a crossroads, and it's bigger than just who gets the ball. This is about identity. Are they a team that clings to talent no matter the attitude? Or are they a team that builds around guys who actually want to lead? Because right now, Sanders wants it. He's not just chasing stats. He's putting in the effort to connect with his teammates, even the ones who are hard to reach. That 60-yard throw wasn't just about yards. It was about extending an olive branch, a statement that said, I still believe in you. And how did Jeudy respond? With silence, with apathy, with a level of detachment that was honestly hard to watch. It's not like this was the first time either. Throughout the season, Jeudy's energy has been all over the place. Missed routes, shrugged shoulders, sideline sulking. Even when he makes plays, the joy is gone. He looks like a guy going through the motions, not one trying to build trust with his quarterback. Contrast that with Sanders, who's out there every week grinding, studying tape, communicating with the line, adjusting mid-game, taking hits and getting back up. He doesn't pout when someone drops a pass. He doesn't clap back at coaches. He owns what's his and keeps pushing forward. That's the guy you build around. And look, Jeudy has a talent. Nobody's denying that. But talent without accountability is empty. And if you can't bring effort and cohesion to the team, it doesn't matter how many highlight reel catches you make. Because the guys around you are watching. They're taking note of who's showing up and who's just showing off. This isn't about one play. This is about a pattern. And patterns tell the truth. If Jeudy really wants to be a leader, he needs to start acting like it. Leadership isn't earned through touchdowns. It's earned through consistency, through resilience, through respect. Sanders has earned that. Week after week, rep after rep. He's been the steady presence this offense desperately needed. And what makes it all more frustrating is that the coaching staff hasn't exactly helped the situation. Kevin Stefanski's offense has been criticized for being too conservative, too predictable, and too rigid for a young quarterback like Sanders who thrives on adaptability and timing. And yet, Shedeur doesn't complain. He adjusts. He finds ways to make it work. That's what leaders do. Jeudy? He blames. You can see it in his posture, in his sideline interactions, or lack thereof. When things go right, he barely reacts. When things go wrong, his frustration leaks into everything. At this point, it's not just bad optics, it's bad football. Because you need cohesion to succeed at this level. Quarterback and receiver have to be in sync, not just in play. Design, but in trust, in communication, in effort. Right now, Sanders is trying to bridge that gap. He's making the throws, extending the trust. But you can't build a connection alone. And you can't drag a guy into the culture if he refuses to walk. So where does that leave the Browns? In a tough spot, honestly. Because it's clear that Shedeur is the future. That's not up for debate anymore. His leadership, his production, his approach. He's everything you want in a franchise quarterback. But the team has to start asking itself, are we going to keep enabling energy that undermines that? It's not about scapegoating Jeudy. It's about drawing either get on board with what's being built or step aside. And to be clear, there's still time. Jeudy could turn it around. He could recommit to the team. Show up with intention. Be present. Be a teammate. Because if he wants to, He still has the tools to contribute in a major way, but it has to start now. Because trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. And Shedeur Sanders has every right to start looking toward guys who want to be part of this next chapter. Guys who respond to effort, who meet leadership with respect. Because Sanders isn't going to wait forever. He's too focused, too locked in, and frankly, too good to waste time begging for buy-in from a teammate who's not emotionally invested. He's already won over the locker room with his poise, his maturity, and his unshakable commitment to the work. And if Jeudy doesn't start matching that, the connection won't be broken because of one bad throw. It'll be broken because of silence, because of distance, because of one player choosing ego over effort while the other is choosing progress over pride. The truth is, locker rooms don't need a dozen vocal leaders. They need one clear direction, and someone who lives it day in and day out. That's exactly what Shedeur Sanders is becoming for the Cleveland Browns. And not by force, not by talking louder than everyone else. By doing more, by showing up early, staying late, keeping his cool when things go sideways, and putting his ego to the side. That's the kind of leadership players follow. Quiet strength, presence, and above all, the same can't be said for Jeudy right now. His inconsistency isn't just in the stat line. It's in everything. His demeanor, his effort, his body language. When a player gets a 60-yard touchdown and still manages to make the moment feel uncomfortable, it's not just about the scoreboard anymore. It's about where their head's at, and where Jeudy's head is. It doesn't seem to be with this team. That's what made the post-touchdown scene so jarring. This wasn't a situation where emotions were running high after a loss or frustration boiled over in the heat of a bad play. This was a win, a huge play, a clear sign that he and Shedeur can make magic on the field. But instead of using that moment to reconnect, to reestablish trust, Jeudy opted for silence, for detachment, for coldness. You can't ignore that, because this wasn't the first time. It's been building, from missed routes to visible frustration, to walking away from the huddle with his head down. Jeudy has made it clear, something's off, and the longer it continues, the more damage it does. Meanwhile, Shedeur continues to rise. Game after game, he's proving that the moment isn't too big for him, that he belongs, not just as a starter, but as the guy, the one you build around, the one who doesn't flinch under pressure or throw teammates under the bus. He doesn't need to be loud to be clear. His message is in the tape, in the film room, in the plays he makes under pressure, and in the effort he gives, even when others around him aren't matching it. What's wild is how rare that is from a young quarterback. Most rookie QBs come in wide-eyed and overwhelmed, needing the veterans to guide them. Sanders, he's been the adult in the room, the one calming the offense down when things stall, the one owning mistakes when others point fingers, the one stepping up, not shrinking. That maturity, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was built through years of tough love from Coach Prime, through standards that didn't budge, through being held accountable when things went wrong. And now that foundation is paying off in real time. While Jeudy's showing cracks, Sanders is showing. It's no wonder players are starting to gravitate toward him. You can feel the shift. That's what happens when a quarterback becomes a leader. You see it in the eyes of the offensive line after a big drive. You hear it in the locker room interviews. You sense it in the team's body language, even in losses. That belief, it starts under center. But here's where it gets complicated. You can't build something lasting when one of your top offensive players is working against the grain. Whether intentionally or not, Jeudy's attitude is sending a message. And that message isn't just about his role. It's about resistance, to change, to accountability, to being part of a unit instead of the center of attention. You can be talented. You can have raw ability. But if you're pulling in the opposite direction of the culture your quarterback is trying to build, you become a distraction, a weight, a problem. And for a young quarterback, that's dangerous. Because Sanders is trying to do everything right. And if his effort isn't being matched, if he's being subtly undermined by veterans who still think the team revolves around them, it slows down progress. It drags everything. That's why this dynamic isn't just uncomfortable, it's unsustainable. Let's be real. The coaching staff is already under fire. Stefanski's system has been called outdated. Critics are questioning whether he knows how to nurture young talent, especially a quarterback like Sanders who thrives on tempo, timing, and chemistry. And when that chemistry is being broken by a top receiver's attitude, that's a coaching problem and a personnel problem. How long do you keep running Jeudy out there when his energy clashes with the direction of the team? Because this team is clearly moving towards Sanders. That's not even up for debate anymore. He's earning trust by staying consistent, by putting others first, by showing leadership qualities you usually only get after years in the league. And he's doing it with humility. He wants Jeudy to be part of that future. That throw, that was a sign, a chance, a moment of trust. But trust has to go both ways. And if Jeudy can't see what Sanders is trying to build, if he can't put his pride aside and lock into that vision, then what are we even to shame, really? Because when they're in sync, the potential is obvious. That touchdown wasn't lucky. It was clean, technical, and decisive. It showed what this duo could be. But the lack of celebration said something louder than any highlight. Jeudy's not aligned. That doesn't mean it's over, but it means we're close. The Browns have a decision to make. Keep feeding into a toxic dynamic out of fear of wasting talent, or pivot now toward the future, toward Shedeur, toward players who want to build with him, not silently protest a shift in leadership. You can't fake team chemistry. You either feel it or you don't. And right now, it's very obvious where the disconnect is. So what happens next? Does Jeudy finally step up, not just on the field, but in the locker room? Does he meet Sanders at the level he's been operating at all season? Or does he keep sulking, waiting for the offense to revolve around him again? Because, spoiler alert, that's not happening. Shedeur's not backing down. He doesn't need permission to lead. He already is. And as the season goes on, that's only going to get clearer. The players who match that energy will grow with him. The ones who don't, they'll get left behind. Quietly, firmly, and inevitably. And honestly, that's what leadership looks like. Let us know what you think. Has Jerry Jeudy already run out of chances to align with Sanders? Is it time for the Browns to lean fully into this new era and stop waiting for someone who might not want to be part of it? Hit the comments, like if you're all in on the Shedeur Sanders culture shift, and make sure you're subscribed for the next chapter in this story. Because the energy in Cleveland isn't just changing, it's choosing.